Then we wanna use an airbrush color. Golden brown is a good base color. Now these paints are a little bit old. Well, at least this one is. This bottle was just recently bought, but with Vallejo paints, you know, sad to say it, but you never know how long they have been sitting on a shelf or sitting in an in a warehouse somewhere when you buy them. So I've had instances where I bought Vallejo paints and then they were like thick as all hell, and in order to bring them back to life you have to kind of throw away half of it and then water it down, you know, use paint thinner and stuff like that, but that's just the result of these paints being on a shelf somewhere for years. Nobody's buying them, and then you buy them online and then they finally ship it to somebody, and then they're basically selling year-old paints, and you want fresh paints because when you put them in your house you might be also displaying them for years before you finally empty the cup or the bottle. So, you know, I've had that happen with certain retailers. So yeah, it's important, even though these are airbrush ready, advertised as airbrush ready, they never are. So that's one thing to keep in mind, especially with airbrushing, because for the brush it doesn't really matter, but for the airbrush it just won't go through the airbrush if it's too thick. I wonder if I should get something. No, I think this will be fine. Just, yeah, we'll be able to get it in there. Now it flows relatively nice. Oh, this is gone. This is empty. Get rid of those air bubbles. Yeah, this is gone. This is empty. If you really want to get the final bits out, put some water with it, clean out that bottle real well. So get the shaker ball out of there, and now it's on the floor. Need a new see, it's a little bit thick for the airbrush. You put some retarder in there so that the paint has a hard time drying when it's in the airbrush cup, and with the warm weather it's not very friendly to paint because the paint dries so fast in warm weather. Even though this might look runny, 'Cause I kind of want an airbrush that has no problems with just paint that's a little bit thicker, that you don't have to kind of go out of your way to get the consistency just right every time you want to use it. You know, you have to have an airbrush that doesn't, you know, it's not just a pain in the ass, because it's just a pain in the ass to get every type of paint that you want, to get that consistent every time. So you want an airbrush that's a little bit less picky on the consistency of the paint, and you know, also takes a little bit thicker paint than thinner paint. And so let's try it. You know what? Let's put some water in there. It's at least spraying the water, so that's kind of nice. That's nice. The water is out of the cup. Good time. Put the cap on. And because we're just trying out some stuff, let's put it on some paper. Oh, there we go. Wow. Now this is the kind of airbrush that I needed from the start. Just put it in the cup and go to town with it. Your sizing is perfect. Beautiful. Just beautiful. It's a little bit wet. Yeah, airbrushing is something you have to get used to. But if you know, like, the concept, the basics, if you've worked with paint, you should at least have like some advantage, some starter advantage, basically. Now I think also the retarder helps a lot with, you know, keeping that paint from drying out. The cup also works like wonders for stopping paint from drying because it's sealed off. I'm pushing down only on the air so that it's drying before I put down new paint. Wow, I'm really surprised. I can mist on. Further away you can mist on. Just, that is amazing. That's what I've been looking for. An airbrush that, you know, you put paint in it and it works basically. And also because you're applying so thin coats with an airbrush. You can still see like the primer color. You can still see it in some places, but that's because the coats are so thin that they dry real fast, and that is really kind of during the painting process. It's really just a really welcome thing. Wow, this is what I've been missing all these years. And it's cheap as well. Just for this airbrush gun alone, it's worth the money. If it keeps working the way it's working now. Obviously there's some maintenance that's involved with keeping an airbrush working correctly. You have to clean it. You have to take care of the needles. Oh wow. Oh, and it's super conservative. My other airbrush would have been empty, long empty by now. Yeah. Let's try a different part. It's just a test piece. It's I bought parts of a model just to have like a similar canvas of what I'm usually working on. These are just cheap parts that I bought from somebody to try out my painting schemes, my color schemes and stuff like that. So this is like perfect for this kind of trying out. And I started with this color because I'm in need of trying out this color scheme. Now, I've been told that when you're airbrushing, and I'm trying this out right now, that the trick to getting consistent coats and making sure that the paint goes where you want it to go, you move your shoulder instead of the air gun. So you move your entire arm instead of just going like that. So something I'll have to try and get good at, I guess. So when I'm done with this base color, I am going to try out the other ones and see how they perform. Now, normally, because this is the first coat, I would brush this on. It's just way faster to do it with a brush. I would use the same type of paint, just, you know, the same color, the same paint, just with a brush. But, you know, for testing out this airbrush, obviously I'm doing it with an airbrush right now. But the airbrush for me will not be like a tool to kind of do everything with. It'll be a tool to mist certain layers on, certain colors on, to enhance certain layers. Maybe varnish in certain places, or, you know, I'll have to try out what this airbrush can do specifically. If it can take varnish, because varnish is a very harsh medium. It's thick. If it dries into your airbrush, that could be a problem because it can harden. But just the process of having an airbrush at your side is just really comforting. There's really something real easy about it. Doesn't mean that it takes away any type of skill. You're not cheating, because you know, airbrush by itself is just a whole different technique than brush painting. So it's definitely not going to replace your favorite techniques and stuff like that. It's gonna, you know, help you out with achieving, you know, a much better result. Some things you can't do with brush painting, like I said, misting on certain colors, controlling kind of how thick you want a layer. An airbrush can just be way more precise with super thin layers. That's kind of what I've been looking for. And there's still paint in the cup. I mean, my other airbrush would have been long empty by now. And I just don't know why. I've tried everything. It would just blow through paint so fast. Like the mechanism was just failing. Even at a low PSI, high PSI, it didn't really matter. But this is a whole different ball game, man. Yeah, this is awesome. Using some air to make that dry. Look at how fine of a layer. Exactly what I've been looking for. Just that control. Being able to lay on really thin kind of layers like that. Just misting on a certain kind of color to make sure that for skin, you want to create skin patterns, definitely on a predator model. The predators have like really dotted skin and all sorts of like patterning on their skin. And to kind of bring that out, you want your previous layers to show, which means you have to go real gentle with the next layer so that you see the layer that's underneath. Really surprised. Really surprised. Look at how smooth that skin looks right now. I'm just gonna treat it like this model is for real. It's the only way to really kinda try out your skills, is to act like you're painting this professionally. And by having it on camera, it also helps out that you can see what you've done. You can repeat your steps and watch it back if you forgot something, or yeah, this unboxing turned into something. Just a really quick unboxing and just trying out the product. That's how it should be. You shouldn't be watching too long at an unboxing video. You just want to get to the meat. How does the product perform? You saw me just put down some paint. Man, that result is super nice. I'll have to buy some airbrush thinner and some more of this stuff, Airbrush flow improver, which just really helps a lot, and the AK interactive retarder I put in there, which was a tip from Reddit, from someone that said like, hey, you know, if you get dry tip a lot, or you know, you have to mix up your paint constantly because it looks like it's clogging. Just use some retarder. It'll, you know, keep that paint from drying out on the tip. Look at how smooth and fast I can apply a layer like that. And precise as well. I get a lot of overspray right now. That's not really an issue. I guess it had to be like this, that I couldn't get the other one. But some things are fate, I would say. Whoa, it's a little bit too thick. Blow that with just air. Have it fan out. All kind of small little tricks I've learned by watching other people do it. It kind of helps a lot when you're starting out with a new kind of thing. Is that you've seen people do it, you kind of picked up on certain stuff. Or a $60 airbrush? That's pretty good. And then again, I'm a super beginner, so now because it's a dual action airbrush, the motion of pushing down for air and then pushing back for paint is just something you really have to learn. It's so different than just pushing on, applying a certain amount of pressure to a single trigger. So yeah, it's kind of something you really have to learn. You really have to kind of go easy. Okay, I want to go easy. Don't want a lot of paint. And you have to really be careful. Like, okay, I don't want to push too hard. I don't want to push too slow or too soft. And now I'm getting a really consistent layer of paint without being it heavy enough to pull. If it's coming out too hard, creating pooling, I can adjust the PSI, but it doesn't really, you know, come out that fast. I'll have to apply a little bit more pressure to the trigger, I think. But these are all just things that I'll have to kind of learn as I go along, because I've been 4 or 5 years with an airbrush that never worked, so I never got the chance to kind of build up that knowledge, and never got to kind of experience it the way it should be. So Also have to be patient, I guess, with airbrushing. I'm really surprised. Oh, look at that, looks amazing. I can go a little bit harder, a little bit further away so I get more spread. Get more spread! Get the shotgun and get more spread! You have to learn how to aim as well, like. Did I cover every piece of this skin? Yep.